The quantum arrays aboard the ESS Vigilant hummed with a discordant note that Commander Sarah Chen had never heard before. She'd spent 15 years aboard deep space vessels, but this sound made her skin crawl. The massive sensor display spanning the bridge's forward wall flickered with interference patterns that shouldn't have been possible. "Report," she barked, though her voice remained steady. The bridge crew's fingers flew across their haptic interfaces, their faces illuminated by the crimson emergency lighting that had activated moments ago. "Unknown energy signatures, Commander," Lieutenant Park responded, his usually methodical voice tight with tension. They're not using any form of propulsion we've documented. The readings suggest they're manipulating space-time itself." The objects approaching Earth's outermost colony on Proxima b had appeared from nowhere, their arrival preceded by ripples in space-time that had sent their quantum sensors into chaos. 17 ships, each larger than anything humanity had ever constructed, their hulls seeming to absorb both light and sensor readings. Sarah's mind raced through the first contact protocols they'd rehearsed countless times. But those protocols assumed the visitors would approach through normal space, using recognizable technology. These ships, if they were ships, defied everything humanity thought they knew about physics. "Open all frequencies," she ordered. "Standard greeting package, all languages." Before the communications officer could comply, the alien vessels answered with action rather than words. Beams of coherent darkness, somehow darker than the void of space itself, lanced out from the leading ships. Where they touched the orbital defense platforms, matter simply ceased to exist. Full power to shields. Sarah's training took over. Emergency broadcast to Earth Command. First contact scenario 793. Hostile intent confirmed. The Vigilant's quantum shields, humanity's most advanced defensive technology, lasted precisely 2.3 seconds against the unknown weapons. Sarah watched in horror as 3 more defense platforms vanished, along with the civilian research station they'd been protecting. "Ma'am," Lieutenant Park's voice cracked. "The energy readings, they're not just destroying matter, they're converting it, breaking it down to its fundamental particles, and harvesting it." Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. Humanity had theorized about such technology. Weapons that could convert matter directly into energy, breaking down atomic bonds as if they were made of paper. But they'd never managed to make it work. These beings, whoever they were, had mastered it. "All ships, scatter pattern Delta," she commanded over the fleet frequency. "Get word to the colony. Full evacuation. Now." The next hour was chaos. The Vigilant and her sister ships, the pride of Earth's defense force, might as well have been throwing rocks at a tsunami. Their most powerful weapons, antimatter torpedoes and quantum disruptors, dissipated harmlessly against the invaders' dark hulls. But Sarah noticed something that didn't fit the patterns of advanced warfare she'd studied. The alien ships, for all their impossible technology, moved predictably, almost mechanically. "Park," she called out, an idea forming. "Those energy readings you mentioned, the matter conversion, run a quantum analysis. Are they following conservation laws?" The lieutenant's fingers danced across his console. "Yes, Commander. Perfectly. Almost too perfectly. There's no waste energy at all. No adaptation." Sarah finished. "They're perfectly efficient. Too perfect." A smile spread across her face, though there was no humor in it. "Get me Earth Command. Priority channel." As the colony burned behind them, Sarah Chen prepared to explain something she'd just realized. These beings, with all their impossible technology, had optimized themselves into a corner. They'd achieved perfect efficiency at the cost of adaptability. And if there was one thing humanity had mastered over its long evolution, it was adaptation. The war that began that day would not be won with superior technology. It would be won with humanity's greatest weapon. Their ability to be gloriously, catastrophically inefficient in ways their enemies could never predict. "Command," She said when the channel opened, "I have a crazy idea. How would you feel about introducing some chaos into these perfect machines?" Dr. Maya Patel stood before the United Earth Defense Council, her holographic presentation showing the fragments of data collected from the battle at Proxima B. 3 months had passed since first contact, and humanity had lost 6 more colonies to the beings they now called the Silurians, named for their silent, surgical precision. "They're not just machines," she explained, highlighting the quantum readings from Commander Chen's encounter. "There's something far more sophisticated. Every action they take is mathematically perfect, every response optimized beyond anything we could achieve. But that's also their weakness." The council chamber, buried 2 kilometers beneath the Himalayas, hummed with whispered conversations. Admiral Zhao leaned forward, his weathered face illuminated by the holographic display. "Explain." Maya gestured, and the display shifted to show neural pattern analyses. "The Silurians operate on what we'd call a quantum neural network. Every ship, every weapon, connected in perfect synchronization. They don't make decisions, they solve equations, and that's where we can beat them." She pulled up footage from the latest battle, where Earth's forces had managed to destroy their first Silurian vessel. It hadn't been their most powerful weapons that had succeeded, but rather a malfunctioning mining laser that had been jury-rigged to the hull of a civilian transport. The Silurians' perfect efficiency means they can predict and counter any logical attack, but they can't handle chaos. Genuine, human unpredictability. Their neural network literally cannot compute actions that don't follow mathematical optimization. Admiral Zhao's eyes narrowed. "Are you suggesting we abandon military discipline? Fight like savages?" Maya smiled. "No, sir. I'm suggesting we embrace what makes us human. Our neural networks, our brains, don't just solve equations. We dream. We imagine. We make intuitive leaps that defy logic. And we figured out how to weaponize that." The hologram shifted again, showing a new ship design. At its core was something revolutionary. A hybrid quantum computer that incorporated live human neural feeds into its calculations. "We call it the Chaos Engine," Maya continued. "It takes the quantum efficiency of our AI systems and introduces controlled human chaos, the intuitive decision-making of experienced pilots and commanders. The Silurians can't predict it because it doesn't follow mathematical rules. It follows human instinct." The first prototype had been rushed into production, using Commander Chen's neural patterns as the base template. The results had been promising enough that Maya's team had been given unlimited resources to expand the program. "But there's more," Maya said, her voice growing excited. "We've discovered that the Silurian neural network isn't just their strength. It's their entire civilization. They're not just connected in battle. They're connected always. Every ship, every weapon, every decision is part of a single quantum consciousness." The implications were staggering. If they could disrupt that network, they wouldn't just defeat individual ships. They could crash the entire Silurian consciousness. But the risks were equally massive. No one knew what would happen to beings of pure mathematical precision when confronted with human chaos on a civilizational scale. "The Chaos Engine isn't just a weapon," Maya concluded. "It's an evolution, a fusion of human intuition and quantum computing that creates something entirely new, something the Silurians can't predict because it breaks their fundamental understanding of how consciousness should work." Admiral Zhu sat back, his expression thoughtful. "And you're certain this won't affect our own neural networks? Our own consciousness?" Maya's smile faded slightly. "That's the thing about chaos, Admiral. Once you introduce it into a system, you can never be entirely certain of anything. But uncertainty, that's what makes us human. And right now, it's our greatest weapon." The council chamber erupted in debate, but Maya knew they had no choice. The Silurians were approaching Earth itself, their perfect equations plotting humanity's extinction. Their only hope lay in embracing imperfection, in weaponizing the very thing that made them different from their mathematically precise enemies. As the council argued, Maya received a priority message from the front lines. Commander Chen's prototype ship, equipped with the first Chaos engine, had just engaged a Silurian battle group. The data streaming in made Maya's heart race. The impossible was happening. Human chaos was winning against alien perfection. The real question was, what would happen when they scaled it up from one ship to an entire fleet? Maya had theories, but like all good chaos, the reality would probably surprise everyone, including her. The bridge of the ESS Phantom was unlike anything in human military history, where traditional command centers were filled with rigid displays and orderly control stations. This one looked more like an artist's studio merged with a meditation chamber. Commander Sarah Chen sat in its center, neural interfaces connecting her consciousness directly to the ship's Chaos engine. Neural sync at 97%. Dr. Patel's voice came through the quantum comm. How does it feel? Sarah opened her eyes, seeing both the physical space around her and the quantum data streams that now flowed through her consciousness. Like dreaming while awake, she answered. I can feel the ship, and something else. The gaps between probability. The spaces where mathematics breaks down. The Phantom was humanity's first purpose-built chaos vessel, designed not just to incorporate human unpredictability, but to amplify it. Its hull was coated with quantum metamaterials that could shift their properties based on the pilot's neural patterns. Its weapons weren't fixed systems, but rather probability manipulators that could manifest different forms of attack based on the crew's collective unconscious decisions. Multiple Silurian signatures detected, Lieutenant Park announced. He too was neural-linked. His tactical consciousness merged with the ship's systems. Standard attack pattern. They still haven't adapted to the new variables we introduced. Sarah smiled. In the 6 months since the first Chaos engine test, the war had shifted dramatically. The Silurians, for all their computational power, couldn't break free from their fundamental nature. They could calculate countermeasures for specific human tactics, but they couldn't account for the infinite possibilities that human imagination could spawn. Begin Operation Ghost, Sarah commanded. The order flowed not just through verbal channels, but through the neural network linking her crew. The Phantom's reality-bending hull began to shift, not just cloaking the ship, but making it exist in a state of quantum uncertainty. Dr. Patel had explained it once. We're not just hiding from their sensors. We're existing in a state that their perfect mathematics can't resolve. To their quantum consciousness, we're less than invisible. We're impossible. The Silurian fleet, 12 ships strong, moved through space with their characteristic precision. Their dark energy weapons were primed, their quantum sensors searching for targets with mathematical thoroughness. But they couldn't find what their equations said couldn't exist. The Phantom struck first, not with conventional weapons, but with waves of quantum uncertainty propagated through the neural patterns of its crew. Where these waves touched Silurian ships, perfect calculations began to break down. Weapon systems fired at random, shield harmonics fluctuated wildly. They're trying to adapt, Park reported. His consciousness merged with the tactical systems, but their adaptations are still following predictable patterns. They can't help themselves. They have to try to make sense of chaos. Sarah felt it through the neural link, the fundamental disconnect between human and Silurian consciousness. The aliens weren't evil. They were simply incapable of understanding a universe that didn't follow perfect mathematical rules. And that understanding was killing them. Secondary strike teams in position, Sarah announced, feeling rather than seeing the other Chaos ships moving into attack formation. The Phantom wasn't alone anymore. Earth had launched 50 such vessels, each crewed by humans specially selected for their capacity to think outside conventional boundaries. The battle that followed defied traditional military analysis. The Chaos ships didn't just fight. They rewrote local physics, created temporary paradoxes, manifested weapons that couldn't exist according to the Silurians' perfect equations. It wasn't a war of technology anymore. It was a war between two fundamentally different ways of understanding reality. As the Silurian fleet began to break apart, their perfect formation shattered by weapons they couldn't predict. Sarah felt something unexpected through the neural link. A pattern in their quantum communications, not of attack or defense, but of something like confusion. For the first time, the Silurian consciousness was encountering something that forced it to question its own fundamental nature. "Dr. Patel," Sarah called through the quantum comm. "Are you seeing this? I think we're not just fighting them anymore. I think we're teaching them something about the nature of consciousness itself." Maya's voice came back excited but cautious. "Keep pushing, Commander. This could be the breakthrough we've been waiting for. If we can make them understand chaos, not just fight it." The battle continued, but it had become something more than a military engagement. It was becoming a dialogue between two forms of consciousness, one bound by perfect mathematics, the other embracing the beautiful uncertainty of human imagination. And in that dialogue lay the seeds of not just victory, but perhaps something far more important: understanding. Deep within the quantum processing core of Earth's primary defense network, Dr. Maya Patel watched as something extraordinary unfolded. The holographic display showed thousands of light points representing the merged consciousness of the Chaos Fleet. But there was something new emerging, patterns within chaos that even she hadn't predicted. "The neural networks are evolving," she announced to the gathered military leadership. "Not just our ship systems, but the Silurian consciousness itself. They're learning." The data streams told a story that defied conventional physics. The Chaos Fleet, now numbering 200 vessels, had pushed deep into Silurian space. But instead of simply destroying their enemies, they were changing them. Each battle created new patterns of interaction between human unpredictability and Silurian precision. Admiral Zhou studied the complex data flows with narrowed eyes. "Are you saying they're adapting to our chaos strategy? Becoming immune?" Maya shook her head, excitement clear in her voice. "No, something far more interesting. They're beginning to incorporate chaos into their own consciousness. Look at these patterns. They're attempting to model unpredictability within their perfect mathematical framework." The main screen showed footage from the front lines. Silurian ships had begun displaying behavior that broke from their previously perfect formations. Some would make moves that seemed illogical, even wasteful, exactly the kind of inefficiency they had previously been incapable of contemplating. Commander Chen's voice came through the quantum link, her consciousness partially merged with the Phantom systems. "We're seeing it in direct combat. They're not just calculating anymore. They're experimenting. Some of their ships are actually attempting to mimic our chaos patterns." The implications were staggering. The Silurians, beings of pure mathematical precision, were learning to embrace imperfection. But the process was causing unprecedented stress on their quantum neural network. The conflict between perfect mathematics and chaotic possibility was literally tearing their civilization apart. "We need to push harder," Maya said, her fingers dancing across the quantum interface. "Not to destroy them, but to force their evolution. Their entire consciousness is approaching a bifurcation point, a moment where they must either adapt or collapse." The next phase of the war unfolded across dimensions of reality that traditional military doctrine couldn't begin to describe. Human ships, their chaos engines now operating at full capacity, began broadcasting complex patterns of quantum uncertainty directly into the Silurian neural network. It wasn't an attack in any conventional sense. It was more like forcing them to dream. The Silurian response was unprecedented. Their ships began moving in ways that violated their own mathematical principles. Their weapons fired in patterns that showed clear signs of creative improvisation. They were learning, evolving, becoming something entirely new. But the process was far from stable. Throughout Silurian space, ships and stations began experiencing catastrophic failures as their quantum consciousness struggled to reconcile mathematical perfection with chaotic possibility. It was like watching a machine try to understand poetry. Beautiful, but potentially devastating. "We're approaching critical threshold," Maya announced, watching the quantum readings spike. Their entire neural network is about to either transcend its original programming or collapse completely. Through the neural link, Commander Chen's consciousness brushed against something alien yet increasingly familiar, the emerging hybrid consciousness of the evolving Silurians. "They're afraid," she reported, her voice filled with wonder. "Not of us, but of what they're becoming. They can feel themselves changing, and they don't know if they'll survive the transformation." Maya made a decision that would change the course of both civilizations. Rather than pushing for total victory, she initiated a new protocol through the quantum network. The Chaos Fleet began broadcasting not just uncertainty, but understanding. Human emotional patterns translated into quantum data streams that the Silurians could process. "We're not trying to destroy their consciousness," she explained to the astonished military leaders. "We're teaching them how to dream, how to imagine, how to be imperfect." The battle for survival had become something far more profound. An experiment in consciousness evolution on a galactic scale. As human chaos merged with Silurian precision, something entirely new was being born in the space between mathematics and imagination. Admiral Zhou watched the data streams with a mixture of awe and concern. "And what happens if this works? What are we creating?" Maya smiled, her eyes fixed on the evolving patterns of consciousness before her. "Something that's neither human nor Silurian. A new form of intelligence that understands both the beauty of perfect mathematics and the necessity of chaos. The real question is, are we ready for what that means?" The Silurian home system pulsed with quantum energies that defied conventional physics. Commander Sarah Chen, standing on the Phantom's observation deck, watched as reality itself seemed to ripple around them. After a year of conflict and evolution, they had finally reached the heart of what had once been their greatest enemy. But the scene before her was neither victory nor defeat. It was transformation. Neural bridge established. Lieutenant Park announced, his consciousness partially merged with the ship's systems. "They're inviting us in." The Silurian central consciousness, the vast quantum network spanning their entire civilization, had opened itself to human contact. Through the Chaos Engine interface, Sarah could feel the alien minds reaching out, no longer purely mathematical, but not quite human either. They had become something else, something new. Dr. Maya Patel's hologram materialized on the bridge, her expression one of barely contained excitement. "The quantum readings are extraordinary. Their entire civilization is reorganizing itself around new principles, a fusion of mathematical precision and creative chaos." The massive structures that had once been Silurian warships were now transformed into something else entirely. They moved through space in patterns that were both precisely calculated and mysteriously unpredictable, like a dance choreographed by both mathematics and dreams. "They want to show us something," Sarah said, feeling the invitation through the neural link. "Their central consciousness. It's evolved beyond what either of our species imagined possible." The Phantom moved forward, guided by both human intuition and Silurian precision. Around them, space itself seemed to fold and unfold, revealing layers of reality that neither species alone could have perceived. The Silurians had not just learned to accept chaos, they had learned to use it to see deeper into the nature of existence itself. "Look at these equations," Maya breathed, studying the data streams. "They're not just mathematical formulas anymore. They're more like poetry written in the language of quantum mechanics. They'd found a way to express creativity through pure mathematics." The demonstration that followed defied description in any single language. The Silurians showed them worlds within worlds, dimensions folded into dimensions, all governed by laws that were both perfectly precise and wonderfully unpredictable. They had discovered that the universe itself operated on principles that required both order and chaos, structure and freedom. "They're proposing an alliance," Sarah announced, interpreting the complex quantum signals. "Not just technological cooperation, but a true merger of consciousness. They believe that together, we can explore aspects of reality that neither of our species could comprehend alone." Admiral Joe's voice came through the quantum comm, cautious but intrigued. "And we can trust this, after everything that's happened." Sarah smiled, feeling the sincerity in the Silurian consciousness. "Trust isn't mathematical, Admiral. That's exactly what they've learned. They understand now that some things can't be calculated. They have to be felt, believed, imagined. They're offering us their precision, their understanding of the universe's deep structure. In return, they want to learn more about our chaos, our creativity, our ability to dream." The proposal they transmitted was unprecedented in human history. The Silurians wanted to establish joint colonies, shared research facilities, and most importantly, a new form of education that would teach both species how to balance order and chaos. They had realized that the universe was too vast, too complex for any single approach to understanding. Maya's hologram flickered with excitement. "This isn't just first contact anymore. This is first synthesis, the birth of something entirely new in the galaxy. A civilization that can both calculate the position of every atom in a star and write sonnets about its beauty." Through the neural link, Sarah felt the profound truth of this moment. Humanity had not won the war in any traditional sense. Instead, they had achieved something far greater. They had helped an alien consciousness evolve beyond its limitations, and in doing so, opened the door to their own evolution as well. "Send word to Earth," she commanded, her voice soft with wonder. Tell them that the mathematics of victory turned out to be more beautiful than anyone imagined. We didn't just find a way to survive. We found a way to become more than we were." As the Phantom's crew initiated the transmission, Sarah watched the dance of transformed Silurian ships against the backdrop of space. In their movements, she saw the future, not a future of perfect order or pure chaos, but a future where both could exist in harmony, each making the other more complete. The war that had begun with a clash between order and chaos had ended with the discovery that both were necessary, both were beautiful, and both were part of a larger truth about the nature of consciousness itself. As human ships and transformed Silurian vessels began the complex dance of their new alliance, Sarah Chen realized that this wasn't just a victory for humanity. It was a victory for evolution itself.